It's time to huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day quite like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy Sports and Outdoors shop today or shop online at academy.com to find grills, canopies, jerseys, you know the drill, and more. They've got it all. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour at undefeatable prices every day. Shop Academy at locations throughout Ohio, Zanesville, Springfield, and Boardman. Fun can't lose, and neither can you with tailgate gear from Academy. Lettermen Row can't lose right now because we got Mick Walker in the house talking Ohio State football. Let's talk some ball, Mick. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Like you said, I'm ready to talk some ball. I'm ready to get the champagne. We're ready for just another game week. We're on weeks or game 6 of 12 here, so we just got to enjoy them. Those are the only ones that are guaranteed every year, Spencer.
Yeah, we're gonna get halfway there. So Saturday marks the halfway point. We've got 3 keys to the game. You know how we do things over here. We'll get into a little bit more. Mick, we've talked to the Buckeyes. We talked to Ryan Day on Tuesday. Talked to some players and Ryan Day. He's the head ball coach on Wednesday. Did you take anything away from that maybe you're going to be thinking about once you get onto the field in Champaign on Saturday morning?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and I don't think he was directly talking about it specifically about this aspect, and I could be wrong. Correct me if I am, but one of his big things, and Berm, our colleague, talked about this or has mentioned it a couple of times. Like, if you don't have tendencies, you don't have things you're good at, or along those lines. I'm paraphrasing him there. And with this Ohio State run game, while I think they've done well, and he even said like they're fine, or like he gave them passing grades essentially at the end of his press conference. He's kind of happy with them. I don't think there's any tendencies really in this run game that are super great. I don't think there's anything where it's like they can consistently go to outside zone to the right or to the left behind this offensive line. So I'm just fascinated to see like if we get to know more about that this week against a team that, like you mentioned on Monday, can be run on, a defense that is somewhat like explosible when it comes to what you can do to them on the ground. So that's something that through a couple of his comments, I'm fascinated to see how it stacks up on Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's notable, Mick, that my big takeaway from what we heard throughout the week is that Ryan Day is willing to throw out the Indiana game as just a complete mulligan. You know, that doesn't matter because Indiana beat them 63-10 for those unaware and those uninitiated. It was pretty ugly. It was a real butt kicking. Here's the deal. Indiana had 267 passing yards in that game. Indiana had 312 on the ground. Now, a lot of that on the ground came in the second half, and Indiana had some short fields because of turnovers, and they got a touchdown on a blocked punt. So, I mean, like, there's some things in there that are statistical outliers. Ryan Day says to throw that game out. Okay, fine. You win, Ryan Day. You're smart. You know ball. I'll throw that game out. Well, here's their other 3 Power 4 opponents when it comes to defense, Mick. The other 3 Power 4 opponents Illinois has faced, that being Duke, USC, and Purdue. Against Duke, Illinois gave up 438 yards of total offense. They gave up 356 yards through the air. Against USC, they gave up 364 through the air and 490 overall. And last week against Purdue threw for 302 yards. They ran for $151 on this Illinois defense. They gave up 453 overall yards. So we'll throw the Indiana game out. That's fine. They get 579 yards of offense in the Indiana game. What I won't do, though, is throw out a different 3-game sample size of 438, 490, and 453 that tell me that this Illinois defense can't stop a nosebleed against really good offenses. Duke, I think, has some good playmakers for everything that they don't have. There's some decent playmakers in that offense. We know USC with Makai Lemon, Jada Maeva. The running game there seems to be going pretty good with Wayman Jordan. So, like, the best offenses they faced this year, and not just Indiana, because, again, we're removing that one, just like Ryan Day told us to. We still don't think we like this Illinois defense. And I think it's kind of interesting to me that Ryan Day is willing to throw out the Indiana game, but he didn't say boo about the other 3. So, you know, I'm a little interested in how he chooses to attack this. Ohio State's calling card this year has been run the football and set up your passing game. I think the identity is starting to shift a little bit from that Minnesota game on, and now this is going to be another opportunity for Ohio State to kind of open it up a little bit and set the tone for this Illinois game, and not try to do things on the ground. I think there's a chance that they can do things through the air, and I think some of the signals throughout the week have told us that that's going to be the game plan.
Yeah, I think when we talk about Ryan Day says we're going to throw that game out. I think it's more of like when he shows the film or when they come into the meetings on Tuesday or whatever it is, or Monday, and they're like, we're playing Illinois. They're like, the Indiana game is not part of the game clips that they're showing like the Ohio State players. But I have a hard time believing that when Brian Hartline, Tyler Bowen, Ryan Day, Billy Fessar, Keenan Bailey, all these guys on the offensive staff sit down, they don't watch at least somewhat of the Indiana game and realize this is what Indiana was able to do to this Illinois defense. We can do similar things. You're not going to expect that same level of performance, but the ways that Indiana exploited Illinois, I think still will be there on Saturday, or at least to some extent in some level, especially when you have guys like Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Max Clare, so on and so forth. Like they have the talent to exploit the holes in this Illinois defense. And I understand that they're against most opponents, they are sound defense and they're a good defense. They're successful. They've been good under Bielema and Aaron Henry, but they haven't faced an offense that has the firepower of Ohio State's offense, and that's not even really an insult to anybody they've played. It's just Ohio State has probably the two best wide receivers in college football on their roster.
Yeah, I mean, I think that USC group's really good with Mekhi Lemon. Like I said, the run game with Wayman Jordan and things.
They were without their left tackle too that game. Like they're playing without a left tackle against the Illini and still able to put up all those numbers on that defense.
I think it was more the Purdue game last week because I do have a lot of respect for the USC offense. I do have a lot of respect for the Indiana overall attack. But when I saw Purdue start to do that to Illinois at times, to the Illinois defense, that's when you start to perk up and say, like, okay, there's going to be opportunities here for Ohio State down the field in the passing game, which is one of the first keys to the game. It's over at lettermenrow.com. We break it down every week, but also go check that story out. It's one of my favorite things to write every week because it really gives me a good deep dive into things and then to try to find 3 keys for Ohio State based on the deep dive. Excuse me. The first key to the game for Ohio State. Again, go to lettermenrow.com, $1 for your first 7 days. You can get the full story. You have to control the line of scrimmage offensively against this Illinois team. Indiana did it, and it was a slaughtering. USC did it at times, and they were able to put up a lot of yards, even in a loss, because Illinois kind of took advantage of some turnovers and some weirdness on special teams and things like that. Purdue, at times, I thought even did a nice job against the Illinois front. But if Ohio State on the offensive line does what it's done every week and give Julian Sayin time to throw, Ohio State's only allowed 2 sacks this season. So if they give Julian Sayin time to throw, he's going to throw for a lot of yards. They're giving up 252.3 passing yards per game. Austin Ward wrote a story over at lettermenrow.com on Thursday that talked about how Illinois is last in the Big Ten in passing yards per game. That starts up front. If Ohio State gives Julian Sayin clean pockets, he's going to throw for yards. So controlling the line of scrimmage offensively, especially for the passing game, is absolutely paramount in this game. And then the Illini have given up at least 100 yards rushing in each of their last 4 games. So what do we know about that? That tells you, and that's even including giving up 113 yards on the ground to Western Michigan, even in a 38-0 win. So, that tells you that this team can be run on. It's not the Illinois defensive line of 2 years ago that had a couple of high-level NFL draft picks in the middle. This is a group that's kind of banged up and bruised and battered from the defensive line all the way back into the secondary. Xavier Scott's not going to play in this game. He's their best defender, and so he might be out for a long time. So I just think that Ohio State, if they can control the line of scrimmage up front on the offensive side of the ball, is going to have a ton of success against this Illinois defense. And even if Illinois then gets something on the other side of the ball, are they going to be able to keep up with Ohio State? I think that all starts on the Ohio State offensive line.
Yeah, and even if you start looking at the offensive line, you go, wow, they've only given up 2 sacks. That's awesome. I'm pretty sure if we even broke down those sacks on a granular level, both of them are things where I don't we're not talking about Chase Young type of sacks where he had years ago where it's just he bent the edge, got around to the quarterback, and just took down the one was against Washington where I think Julian Sayin was very much trying to make sure the clock stayed running bare minimum, or that probably crossed his mind. I think the other one might have been he ran out of bounds or something at some point as well. It was in one of those earlier games as well. It wasn't anything crazy. I have to double check and see what the first one was. But yeah, this offensive line's played very well. And like you said, I think it's probably the best offensive line that Illinois has played this season. And again, it'll be interesting to see if they're able to use this talent and the skill and the nastiness of this offensive line to actually kind of impose their will on them with the run game. Because I think even though he said he was happy with it, I think Ryan Day probably still has some things he wants to see from this run game.
Yeah. So that's the first key to the game is just if you control the line of scrimmage on the offensive side of the ball, you're going to win this game. That is the way that I feel about this game. And so, I think if Ohio State has to get into a track meet with Illinois, I think it's more than okay. it can hold its own in a track meet, considering the athletes that they have. Second key to the game, Mick, I think you know what it's going to be. Illinois has very good offensive weapons, I would say. I would say very good because we're going to compare them to what Ohio State has. And compared to what Ohio State has, maybe they're not even very good. They're just good because Ohio State's are so good. It's Colin Dixon as a receiving threat. It's red zone threat Justin Bowick, who has 4 touchdowns on the year because he's 6'5" and he's just really difficult to defend at the goal line, and they throw him goal line fades and do different things with him in the red zone. But the number one weapon on this offense, undoubtedly, 5th in the nation in receiving yards, has a punt return touchdown. He's got a rushing touchdown. He's thrown the ball once this year. He is an elite wide receiver in the Big Ten. He's not going to get the first team credit because of Mekhi Lemon and the guys at Ohio State and some guys elsewhere in the league. But Hank Beatty is so good, man. And you flip on his tape, he looks like an NFL receiver. They line him up in the slot a lot, so you've got to know where he is. And I'm not sure if it's going to be Lorenzo Styles drawing that because he's in the slot, or if Caleb Downs is going to be there, or if you're going to put Jermaine Matthews in the slot. No matter how you choose to defend him, you have to know where he is on every play. Because if there's even a half of a play where you don't know where he's at, he's going to score a touchdown. Like, he's got deep play ability. He's got run after the catch ability. I don't think I'm overstating this. He's very, very, very good. And I think that's one of the keys to the game is if you stop Hank Beatty and you say, okay, we're taking him out, Colin Dixon and Justin Bowick are going to have to beat us. That's probably a recipe for success for Ohio State. So the second key to the game is to stop Hank Beatty.
Yeah, and Hank Beatty's probably what I think Denzel Boston probably gets drafted higher. He's probably a more talented wide receiver from Washington, but Hank Beatty being in the slot, being able to kind of move around, like there's some different things about him that make it more difficult to guard, especially when you don't have Jordan Hancock like you had last year. Like you said, I don't know. Maybe this is a game where we see a lot of Jermaine Matthews in the slot and a lot of Devin Sanchez on the outside. Maybe you see a lot of Caleb Downs in the slot and you kind of drop Lorenzo Styles and Jalen McClain in the back, like in the safety spots. I imagine Matt Patricia has a good game plan for this. And again, like you said, I think Colin Dixon, who I've known since he was at Tallmadge High School, like he's a very talented player. He's a good player. He's got some speed, but again, he wouldn't play at Ohio State, and that's not a knock at him because, like you said, Ohio State has really good wide receivers. Justin Bowick, I believe he transferred up from Ball State or a MAC school. Like, he's a guy that hasn't been in Champaign for a long time. Like, he clearly has some skill, but they all haven't played a lot of talented defenses either when it comes to, like, from a cornerback's perspective. He hasn't faced somebody like Davidson Igbinoza this season, if we're just saying something, like giving an example. So I don't know how exactly you stop, like, I don't know exactly what they will do to stop Hank Beatty, but I imagine Matt Patricia has a plan with kind of the players at his disposal, and then you have enough on the outside to stop some of the other wide receivers as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just think that it's paramount that Ohio State knows where he's at on literally every snap, or else, it could be 7-0.
Even on special, I don't know if he is this, but hasn't he returned punts in the past? I feel like from at some point he's done something.
He's got a punt return touchdown this year. He's got 9 punt returns this year. He's one of the nation's leading punt return yardage guys because when he does catch punt returns, he's lethal with it. Now, Ohio State hasn't punted much, and you have to – the first step in all of that is forcing Ohio State to punt, which has not been an easy thing for teams to do. In the last 2 games, Ohio State's punted, I think, 3 times. So, it's not an easy thing to do, force this team to punt the football. But if Ohio State does have to punt, the special teams then have to know where he's at too and have to be very much on cue. Because if the special teams have a breakdown, he's going to take one of the house. So, he's a really talented player. I think Ohio State's going to have to know where he's at all times and be really on cue, not just in the secondary, but on special teams, right on cue, Mick. Third key to the game, and it's not even really a key to the game. We just need to make sure that we tell you guys about our friends over at Game Time. Right now on gametime.co or in the Game Time app, I'm seeing tickets 12 rows off the field at Memorial Stadium for $121. Game Time tells me that's, quote, an amazing deal. I'm really excited for this game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I've known people who are trying to get over there to grab some late tickets for this one. And I think the place that they should all go and the place that you guys should all go is the Game Time app. There's college football tickets for as low as $25. Obviously, this one is a little bit more expensive. There are tickets under $100 in the venue. There's an $83 option. There's some tickets on the roadside for $96. There's some in the student section if you want to try to start a fight, I guess, for under $125. And we're going to give you $20 off your first purchase in the Game Time app or at gametime.co when you use the code ON3, ON3. 3. My favorite feature of this is the zone deals. There's a zone deal right now on the Game Time app and at gametime.co for this game where you pick the section, and this is in section 201 to 209. They pick the row and the seat for you based on what the best deal is. And if you don't care where you sit in that venue in those 8 sections, as long as you get a seat for the best price, they'll just pick out the seat for you. Also, what you see is what you get. There's not any tacked on fees or anything like that. You'll know your total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. It's a really good, easy, seamless process. So go to gametime.co, use the Game Time app today. Use the code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase in the Game Time app, and we'll see you guys over in Champaign on Saturday. There's also tickets for Ohio State, Penn State that are already on sale. Those things are a little bit more expensive. We'll talk about that maybe when we get there to that week. But for now, we're here talking about Ohio State, Illinois. The third key to the game, Mick. Illinois got an old man at quarterback. It's kind of crazy. Luke Altmaier entered the college football space in a recruiting class with Kyle McCord and Quinn Ewers were in Luke Altmaier's class. He's a former Ole Miss quarterback who transferred out when they went and got Jackson Dart. And we'll watch Jackson Dart on Thursday Night Football. And so he's a really, really old quarterback, Mick. He's almost like a Will Howard type. He's got a lot of experience. He's really good. He's not as good under pressure. And so with this Illinois offensive line in the shape that it's in, I'm not sure if the center is going to play in this game. I'm not sure how healthy they are on the offensive line. And even when they are healthy, they allowed 4 sacks to Duke. USC got to him once. Purdue sacked him twice. Indiana sacked him 7 times because Illinois just couldn't block the Indiana front 7. Seems like a recipe for disaster for the Illini, a recipe for success for Ohio State. The third key to the game, man, you've got to get to Luke Altmaier. If he's got time to throw, Hank Beatty's going to get open at some point. Colin Dixon can find his way open. The running backs are decent out of the backfield. If you could pressure him, he's going to make errant throws. He doesn't turn the ball over through the air. He doesn't throw interceptions, but he's been known to put the pill on the turf a little bit. When you get to him, I think he had a fumble against Duke. He had a fumble, I think, against Indiana. You got to put pressure on Luke Altmaier. That's key number 3, is to pressure this veteran quarterback.
Yeah, I was going back and doing some research. I mean, he was a former Florida State commit, like you said. He's been around for a long time. He was a highly top recruit, went to Ole Miss, transferred up to Illinois. And the fascinating thing is, I think he's similar to a lot of these older, multi-year starter quarterbacks, and like a Diego Pavia and Luke Altmaier. These guys kind of fall in the same tier where they're very good college quarterbacks. They still very much have flaws in them. Like you said, he can put the ball on the turf a little bit. I don't think this offensive line is great. I think their left tackle is pretty good, J.C. Davis. Aside from him, I think the middle of that offensive line, at least from reading and doing some research and listening to podcasts from the Illinois perspective this week, they have questions. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get on some of these third downs, you get more of these sets where, all right, we're sliding Caden Curry inside to go against somebody that's a guard for them, or Caden McDonald's going to get pressure against. I know they played a backup center against Purdue last week, and I don't know if their starting center is going to be back, but if he is, obviously that's an improvement for them. If you have a backup center against Caden McDonald and you have a guard that you don't really love against Caden Curry, I don't think that's a great matchup. And that's not even talking about whether it's Bo Atkinson, Kenyatta Jackson, Arvell Reese on the edge. There's Ohio State's defensive line should be able to get pressure on this, like you said, on Luke Altmaier, just because they have the talent. I think Matt Patricia has done a good job so far of kind of scheming up ways to create pressure as well.
I just think that if Ohio State pressures Luke Altmaier, this game is going to be – I don't think it's going to be similar to Indiana. That was an avalanche that was unavoidable.
I think we can both agree that Ryan Day doesn't care to make it as similar to Indiana as Kirk Cignetti wanted to make it that day. I think there was very much an idea of what was going on that day from Kirk Cignetti.
No, but I think a lot of coaches watch film, and there's a reason that Ryan Day is speaking a lot this week about fighting complacency and not letting his team think that they're really good. He wants them to be super focused on this game. He's called Illinois a top 10 team for the entire week. And in that same vein, though, I know Ryan Day has watched a lot of this Illinois tape. If I see it, he definitely sees it. And that offensive line has not been good enough this year against the best teams they've played and it's only cost them one game, but this is a different animal, Matt Patricia's defensive system, and trying to confuse even a veteran quarterback and things like that. If you get pressure on Altmaier, I think it's going to be a long day for the Illini. And so we'll see. I hope I'm not tipping my hand too much on where my score prediction is starting to go, and I don't think it's going to be 63-10. I pinky promise. Like, I have a lot of respect for this Illinois team. I think it's going to be a really tough challenge for Ohio State. But like at the end of the day, the film doesn't lie. And you in week 6 on October 11th, you are who you are, man. Like, so, if they're having trouble along the offensive line, they're having trouble stopping the pass. Like, it's not just a 2 or 3 game sample size anymore. This is across 5 or 6 games in their case. And so you are who you are. And so I think Ryan Day's trying to keep his team locked in because he knows that his team is also watching the film and sees, that this team can be got in some areas. But the thing about it is Ryan Day keeps saying, if you think you've got it, you're going to get got. So he's really driving that home right now because he knows that he doesn't want his team to go in here just thinking they're going to beat Illinois, even though what they've seen on film tells them that they're going to beat Illinois. So we'll see what happens. That is Mick Walker right there across from me on the other side of the screen. He and I are going to head over to Champaign on Friday, and we're going to be there for Saturday's matchup between the Illinois Fighting Illini and the Ohio State Buckeyes. We cannot wait to get there. Lettermen Row have full coverage of that matchup. We'll also have on Friday bold predictions, a video from Mick and I. We'll talk a little bit about score predictions. We'll do some betting, some sides that we're on this week. And we'll definitely talk about what we think is going to happen between the Buckeyes and the Illini. For Mick, I'm just Spencer. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys over at lettermenrow.com. We'll see you back here on the YouTube channel on Friday for bold predictions, and we'll see you over in Champaign on Saturday for Ohio State and Illinois.